What's going on, everyone, and welcome back. I'm still up here at Southside Sales and Service, and behind me we have a sled that I still to this day get a lot of questions about, and that is the Pro S, the switchback chassis with the weird beaver tail or weird suspension that people called it. And you know, people love these sleds, and when they came out, and Bruce can testify, they were awesome. Yeah. This is actually the sled that converted me to a Polaris rider. Yeah. I got on one, it was an XCR version of this, but I got on one, I was like, wow, this thing is so much fun. And that's when I became part of the Polaris family. But I get a lot of questions on setup on these, and yes, we do a lot of the new stuff. We do the Matrix, the VR1s, the XCRs of today's day and age. But, you know, guys still love these things and still reach out to me about, how do I set these up for my weight? And there are, you know, just like the newer sleds, there is a lot of little tips and tricks that we're going to have here, and suggestions that we're going to have suspension wise to get these things to work, you know, kind of how we think that they should work. So Bruce here is going to take us kind of through evolution, basic setup, what to do to really get it to work how you want it. Just a friendly reminder that 322 Threads giveaway number 2 is still live. It ends August 31st. So we are counting down the last couple weeks here of being able to get entered into a brand new KLX 110 or $2,000 cash. That's a big or, guys. If you guys are like, I don't want that bike. Well, you could get $2,000 cash to put into your sled and do whatever you guys want. Just go to 322threads.com. Anything purchased off the website automatically gets you entered again to win the bike or $2,000 cash. So go get those orders in now. How you want it.
Hello, guys. So yeah, this unit was you know, when it came out as a rush in 2010, it was, you know, game changing. And then they made a lot of changes from that point. You know, the 11, 12, 13, 14, you know, it was a good sled. We had some motor issues back then, but in general, it was a good sled. Once 15 came, like this unit, it's, you know, and went to Axis. This is when we really started selling a lot of that product. It was lighter, it worked really good. The motors were better. It just, everything, you know, kind of fell into place.
Yeah. Ergo, you sat nice on them. They were skinny.
Yeah, it definitely made a big difference. So this sled became popular for, you know, all of my customers. I mean, it was the snowmobile that I sold. Whether it was short, long, whatever color it was this snowmobile. Right.
And they came in 120
and 137, and then in 17 came out with an XCR that was a 121, went back to that 252 pitch. And then the XCR went to a 136 because that's what we were using across country. Even in 18 or 19 is when it went to a 137. So it's so this snowmobile is good. It's a good all-around sled for everybody. The way it comes out of the box like this, realistically, it's pretty light suspended. So whether it been a light rider or somebody that was just less aggressive, just, you know, like to slow speed trail ride, it was very soft in the front. We all talk about the needle shocks and all that. Well, this was the first movement where we started seeing how fast and how easy these shocks move, which was great for all that chop and that small stuff that you didn't feel in the handlebars. But what it didn't do well is when, you know, it moves so much. So when you were going down the straightaway and then you turn, it would lean a lot. And when it would lean a lot, and then where the track was on the ground on this, it would high rise. So you have that inside ski lift, and we fought that. And you fought it unless you, and again, things that I try not to do is pull the strap. I try to make our new sleds turn without pulling the strap, without losing that travel in the front track suspension area. You just you had to do it with this because there was just the track angle on this and where the track was hitting the ground. It was just conducive. When you turned, it picked up the inside ski. So, but the one good thing about these sleds is when you did set it up the way you wanted, you could pull that strap up, and then this was a coil spring under here that you would just grab on and turn under here to get your preload up. So you could pull the strap up, which in today's world with the torsion springs, if you pulled that too much, the tail would drop and it doesn't make it handle well. This sled, you could pull that strap and crank this spring up and the rear would hold the sled up. So it would still do what you wanted it to do, but yet it would turn better. So that was definitely different with this because it was a non-coupled suspension. We didn't have the blocks and the bars going across like we go through with our suspensions, and what it does when the front track hits the bump, these aren't connected. But it did work well being able to hold the rear up and pick the front track off the ground. The only thing that you would have then is these sleds, again, just like today's VR1s and XCs, they come with 80-pound springs. So the fronts are very, very soft. So when you pulled that front track off the ground,
it gave it more ski pressure.
And the nose would drop. So it would, you'd get that look when you look across the front of this sled, the A-arms would be inverted. And that's not a good thing. It just shows how soft it is. When it goes down far enough, it puts the track back on the ground again, so it's going to lift when it goes around the corner. So you just keep fighting that thing. But in general, if you were buying one of these used or you own one now, it's definitely worth upgrading. Putting some more spring in the front, have us valve the shocks, because they're just when they're in good shape, they're very loose like this. Never mind if they're wore out. So it completely changes how this sled handles it. It keeps the nose up a little bit with that 100-pound spring, just like we use today, and then we revalve the shock so it doesn't dive so easily, and the sled will corner better all by itself before not even changing anything back here. The rear with the coil spring setup is easy, so if the guy's 150 pounds, or a girl that's 120 pounds, or it's somebody that's 225 pounds, you can crank that spring up and it'll hold that sled up. These sleds came with a 120-pound spring. Realistically, with a heavier guy, should go to 130 or 150. And then also that rear shock was a needle shock also, just like the fronts were. So it would move very quickly and it would rebound very quickly. So again, plenty of this stuff for taking the needle out, making it work normally, slowing the rebound down, and making it where the clicker does more on these, because that's a problem with the needle ones, is you kind of can't make up for it enough, and then when you do, it's so harsh, then it's no fun to ride. So definitely, if you're buying one of these and it's got mileage on it, the shocks can certainly be attended to and or changed depending on how you're riding, and then the springs depending on what your weight is. But in general, this sled, it works really well where you sit on it, how it turns. It's just, you can make it a lot better by doing some of the things that we talk about today on the ones that we're using now, that is 6 years, 7 years newer than this. But it's just done differently, because we have a coil spring rear, not torsion springs where you have the blocks and two springs. So you can definitely make this handle like today's sled, but we just have to do it a little bit differently because of how the rear is.
Yeah. And again, guys, this sled, when I got on it, the XCR that I was riding, and again, that would have 100-pound springs in the front,
yeah, I had
130-pound spring in the rear. So it was a little bit stiffer than a Pro S, but
the valving was notably stiffer.
Yes,
on that too.
Yeah, and I even said that they were too soft, and that was the first thing when I called Bruce. I'm like, I like it, but it's a little too soft. But anyway, long story short, Bruce ended up doing my shocks, and it was even to today one of the best sleds that I've ever ridden, and they are awesome. They were great. They were a ton of fun. When you got them to the point like where if Bruce did the shocks and springs and everything, they're awesome. They really are a blast. I have two guys in the crew. I have Chris and Fudd that still ride them to this day and love them, and for the most part won't give them up. So they are definitely a great sled. They're very similar to ours.
Yeah, and and the front ends are the same geometry that we have today. The spindle looks different on our new ones because of the new generation, but the A-arm angle, the size, the sway bars, there's two different sway bar diameters depending on the units, but that held true all through the years. But all the same geometry. So it's not old generation by any means in the nose. It's just getting it to work like today's stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but awesome, unit. If someone was looking to get into sledding or try it and you found a used one, definitely, it's not a bad idea to pick one up because, again, they are great.
Yeah, suspension stays together very well, and it's very adjustable, and it's hard to bottom them out. When you have it set up for your weight, it will handle small stuff and big stuff, which is hard pressed to do in even today's product. The way the springs are, if you went out and the conditions changed, this sled can really handle a lot of that bandwidth of small to big bumps.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely we wanted to touch on them. But that's going to do it for the Pro S kind of setup video. Again, comments, questions, anything, put them down in the comments. I'll get back to you. And that's going to do it. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.